The CT-sided meta is back, and it is great for the game. It's Blast who recently tweeted this out. Welcome to the CT meta. Some massive percentages for the CT side. Now listen, okay. This is just for the playoffs. This is a tiny sample size, okay? This is like if aliens abducted only like a couple of Hawker viewers to use that to try and judge the whole human race, and then they think, oh my god, all these humans are just massive giga chads who hang with the coolest guys, eat at the coolest restaurants, they're packing absolute heat down there. And you know, listen, that's true for Hawker viewers, but it's not true for every human, okay? So we can't use this and just say that the CT meta is fully back, but it's definitely going in that direction, okay? If we look at just the last month overall, pretty much every map is at least slightly CT-sided, which wasn't really the case before. And if we go and look at big events specifically, we start to get some pretty CT-sided maps in there. Maps like Train, maps like Nuke, maps like Overpass, up towards nearly 60%. This is where we want them to be. And there's some really cool guy. Let me know if you can find this guy, by the way, on Twitter, because like, I want to know this guy. He's awesome. Look at him. He's so sexy. Oh my goodness. He said it's much better for the game to be a little too CT-sided compared to too CT-sided. Just for the flow of the game, T-rounds should feel like they're earned, and great in-game leaders and players should be rewarded for their ability to win them. And I think that's absolutely true, and I think it's going to bring a lot of good to the game for a lot of reasons. So let's look at some of these numbers. Now again, this is only over the last month. We don't have that many maps to work with. However, this is overall win rates, and here are just T-side win rates. And immediately, you look at a team like Gamer Legion. Now, yes, it's only 7 maps, but I love the idea that a team like Gamer Legion that maybe don't have all the most talented players in the world could win a lot of T rounds by some little trick plays, maybe some misdirection. You know, we used to have these teams like Big Clan or like these creative little underdog teams that could cause a real threat just by finding ways and finding new ideas on the T side, and then suddenly they become a real scary team to go up against. Now, they might not be able to win all the CT rounds because that's where you kind of need more individual skill and individuals have a bit more freedom. And that's what I want to say is that I have seen some people point out that, of course, in-game leaders are important on CT side as well. And yes, that is true. However, I think on CT side, it's so much more common for individual players to be able to get a read on what to do and just to make a move. Like halfway through the round, the A player on Mirage might just decide, I'm going to push A ramp. I feel like it might be clear. I've got the comms. I feel like I can make this play. And maybe I'm going to bring a teammate with me or get flashed in. That's a lot easier to do than to figure out what you want your final plan to be, to coordinate all your pieces on the T side to make sure you're all moving towards a bomb site together. Because if you make a solo play on T side, it is much more likely to go wrong, right? It is a much bigger risk. And so I think it is pretty clear to me that in-game leaders are more important for the T side because, I mean, that's where you have the objective. That's where you have to, most of the time, do something. Like, sometimes on CT side, you will call for a set play at the start of the round, and you will say, let's go 3B and boost players up into B apps on Mirage, and I feel like we need to stack this site. That will happen, but I think it's much more likely that it comes from the entire team feeling things out, because if you play the same spot every round, you get a much better feel for what's going on in that spot and what to do. So I like this. I really like this. And as I said, a team like Gamer Legion, I love the idea that they could be very well coached, very well led, and that they could really start to scare teams by winning quite a few T rounds, right? And then look at the team that are second on this list. It's FaZe. I love this. Okay, again, small sample, and they also have a pretty good win rate overall. But the idea that Karrigan can still have value because of his mid-round calling, I think that's huge to me. I really do. And yes, obviously, sometimes it's not going to come down to the in-game leader because it will come down to the prep work. That's also true, right? Sometimes the T side will just be so good because of the prep work or because all your standard rounds are working. But sometimes those T rounds where you have to adapt on the fly and things are going wrong, that's where I want to see very good in-game leaders rewarded for their ability to adapt, right? I think it's so important that these players stay in the game because Counter-Strike is special and unique because these old-ass dudes can keep playing. And it's great. It's great. Karrigan is such a mature guy now. You can see the value he brings in his calm nature, in his calling, in just his experience over the years of seeing so many situations before. And if he can adjust and be able to win T rounds because of that, it's great. Because oftentimes, these are the guys that are the personalities nowadays. Think about Karrigan. Think about Apex. We want these guys to stay around in the scene because they get it. They get it, man. It's good for the game just in that sense, and it's good for the game from a spectator point of view. I also think something that's interesting. Listen, I've talked about Spirit. 57% win rate overall, 50% on T side. I think that's a fairly normal drop-off that we might start to see. Maybe a little bigger than usual, but I think that's interesting because I've been saying, I don't know if I rate Chopper all that highly. I think he's a pretty good in-game leader. But is he the in-game leader you want for like the best team in the world and for someone like Donk? I don't know. I think that's a question. And I think we should be in a meta where if you are not a great in-game leader, maybe you can't win T rounds as often and suddenly your spot isn't as obvious. Because the team I really want to point out for this is MOUZ, right? Again, only 19 maps, but that's actually more than a lot of teams here. Look at their difference. 51% win rate overall, only 42% on T side. Now, listen, this comes down to what maps you've played and blah, blah, blah. A lot of things. However, MOUZ are the team that went into just getting Brollan as an in-game leader who a lot of people weren't sure about. And I think it's important that we make sure we don't accidentally fall into a scene where people just start saying, okay, I'm going to just convert this pretty good player into an in-game leader and just hope that it's just good enough that we can rely on our firepower, right? I think that's very important to have. And so I think MOUZ are going to be a very interesting case study on this because I don't know if people are massively convinced that Brollan is this incredible in-game leader. I think the vibe in general is that MOUZ are just a very talented team and you can get away with a lot because of that, right? So I think there's a lot of very interesting aspects here. And even like Vitality, they have a fairly big drop-off. Listen, I'm someone who said in the past, I really like Apex as a guy. I don't always know if, like, tactically, Vitality have the most depth. Like, it feels like they sometimes just rely on the strengths of the teamwork and rely on grouping up kind of early and using strength in numbers a lot, right? I think that could be very interesting. But the other side of the coin is it's not just about the in-game leaders. It's about the players too. It helps the players too. Because look at how hard it is to be really good on T side. Look at all these players here with low ratings. And look at Donk, right? And this is the other thing, because Spirit may not have, in my opinion, a great in-game leader, but they have the best T-side player by far. This is now going to give Donk even more value. If the game really is becoming more CT-sided, if Donk can win you a couple of T rounds just by himself, which he almost always seems to do, this guy could now just win you series by himself. As long as your CT side is solid, if Donk just wins you like 4 T rounds, that might actually be a good enough T half. And I think that's really cool. And I think it values him even more. And look at some of the other guys. Rop's up there. By the way, okay, listen. You might know on this channel, sometimes, I wouldn't say I'm a ZywOo hater. I just say that for me, Simple's still the GOAT. And at least recently, I know it's very recent stats, but ZywOo, you know, that's pretty average numbers on the T side. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If we look at the overall year, though, obviously that's different. Like, ZywOo is up there. Again, Donk is still insane, though. I think that this gives a lot of value to Donk, and I think that's really cool. And even Rops, you know, very good at those lurks on T side. So I think that's the other aspect. I think it also helps these standout star players, and that's what we love, right? These are the guys that we love. And if you look at this in action, it seems to be going that way. Like Spirit here in the finals against Mongols, they get 7 T rounds on Nuke, and that's enough. Now, okay, maybe their CT side isn't as great as you would like, but still, it's good enough. Again, both teams get 7 T rounds here. That's good from both of them. But then to close it out, it's the 8 T rounds for Spirit that really make the difference, and Mongols can only get 1. Over here, again, this is a big one for me. Vitality against the Mongols. Vitality got 1 T round on Mirage. Okay, not their pick. And then they start on Inferno, and they only get 2. Right? Now, again, I think one thing that's important is, like, this is going to make pistol rounds maybe even more important, and that is the one thing that concerns me about this, because Spirit in this series won a bunch of pistols, and that helped them massively. And honestly, I think there's something to be said about adjusting them. And I've always been someone who thinks I would like to have the pistol round in the game still, because I think it's just such a nice way to start a game and a half narratively. Like, you understand that everyone doesn't have money at the start. They have weaker weapons. I think it's just fun as well, having something slightly different in there. So I'm fine with pistol rounds. I would just like it that they actually just give you a bunch of money even after you lose the pistol. So if you lose the pistol round, you can just about get a pretty good buy, maybe with like AKs and M4s and a tiny bit of utility. But if you win the pistol, you get a bit more of a buffer, and then you could go back down to a smaller losing bonus. That's, I think, what will work really well, because then, even if you lose the pistol, you at least have one gun round before you might get reset. And I think that would work nicely, because it would feel a lot better. At least you've had that one gun round, and you can say, okay, we pulled out our best gun round, and we had the chance to try and get back into this after losing the pistol, but we just messed up on our first gun round, right? Or we just got owned on our first gun round. I think that would feel a lot better for the players. I really do. And that's a change I think you could make, and it might feel a bit weird at first, but I actually think in the long run it could be very, very good. The other one here, obviously, we just saw the Vitality Mongols. And by the way, okay, listen, if you want to say that, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. But Apex himself says, we are losing because of me. Awful T-sides, awful aim, awful calls. Sorry, guys. So he himself said in this series he didn't think the T-side was good enough. And I just love the idea that that could be such an important aspect. And also, I think Apex would probably like it too, because he's going to get the chance to, like, prove, okay, if we do get back to this era where the T-sides become really important to win, he'll get the chance to prove he's a great in-game leader. He really will. And I think that's great. I really do. Then there was also Mao's Spirit. Again, kind of similar. You can see, especially here, Mao's picking Mirage, 2 T rounds, and you're just kind of screwed off the back of that. So, yeah, I really like where we're at. Overall, I think that this is just good for the game. I really do. Like, I love the idea, and I think it's just, even intuitively, as a casual viewer, you watch and you're like, it should be harder for the T side to win, right? It should be harder for them. They've got to go and do something. They've got to try and get the CTs away from it. The CTs start defending things, right? And I don't mind having one map like Anubis where we can say, oh, look, this is the one map where it's weirdly T-sided. That's fine. I wouldn't be against that. But I think overall, the large majority of maps should be like this. I think it rewards the best players. It rewards the in-game leaders. And it also means that, like, if you're just an average player who's going along with the pack, like, maybe you become a little less valuable, right? If you're just an okay in-game leader that never really stands out, maybe we start to see the truly top in-game leaders get back to the best, and we start to see them really be valuable again. And also, you know why I like this? Because if this starts happening, let me tell you, I made a prediction at the start of the year that Karrigan is going to win the final major of this year. I got a feeling it could happen now. If this really happens, okay, I know it seems crazy right now, but you don't know about Karrigan in those big stage matches. You don't know about him. He's got the balls. He can put it on the line. I love to see it. I'm really excited for this going forwards. I think CS is just in a great spot right now, man. I really do. I'm so excited for this upcoming season. It's a great thing for the game. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.